started. There we go. If you don't want your face on the recording, please go to dark mode. If you do, we'd love to see you, of course. Joe and I we'll kick off this meeting with some few questions that I have for him. If you have questions that you would like to ask Joe, please either put them in the chat with a big, gigantic capital questions. If you would like me to ask the question, please put the question itself in the chat. If you would like to speak to Joe directly, then you can just say, I have a question, and we'll call on you as many as we have time for. Okay.
Awesome. Mindy, thank you. I appreciate it. It might help too. I can give people a little background of who we are, what I do know, and maybe what I don't, as well. If that works for the team, everybody here. So, like she's Joe McClung, Floodgate Medical. Our mission here is to improve lives. We just happen to do it by uniting great people with great companies. So, that is the reason we really honored to be on a call like this, where we can hopefully share one of those golden nuggets that helps you find that next opportunity to be able to improve your lives. That totally, works on our mission. And Floodgate Medical has been around 21 years. I've got 22 recruiters down here, most in Tampa, but California and Colorado. And our full focus is really on that med device, med tech space. Not 80% is on the commercial side, but we handle all elements, in that med tech space. So that is kind of our niche, and especially I know some of you guys I saw coming through are in other areas, but there's a lot of universal truths. So I'm sure there's a lot of things we can help you that isn't just germane to med device, med tech as well. But I haven't always been a recruiter. I've only done this 5 years. So I'm kind of a neophyte at this. Most of my career, I was a sales rep, sales leader, and then finished my career in corporate America as a business unit president for DJO. It's an orthopedic company before I kind of transitioned to this side. So kind of have both perspectives, if you will, of hiring, leading, and then also on recruiting. So hopefully I can pull from both of those areas of experience to be able to share some, value for you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. Really appreciate. I'm wondering, what made you get into recruiting?
Sometimes it is the direction we're given, not always the thing. So my partner in this business is Josh Hutchin, who we were fraternity brothers in college. We had our first job in med device together. He went and started this business. After he left there, I went and did the corporate route. And so I was calling him kind of like you guys are right now. Hey, help me. What do I need to know? And through that discussion, he said, what about doing this? And I said, I never thought about it, but it hit the goals I wanted to achieve. And so here I am. So sometimes you have to be open for serendipity, right? So.
Amazing. And you've helped so many people in a short period of time. So we thank you, and we thank all recruiters. We know what a hard job you guys have. So I often tell my career clients that they should create good relationships with a few trusted recruiters, right? What advice can you give to job seekers who want to create those good relationships? What do you suggest to do to either find the right recruiters or to start building those good relationships?
Yeah, so I'm going to step back and just be transparent of what recruiters can do for you and really where the limitations are, right? Because I think there's some misconception about that, right? So recruiters are, they're a great source of information about what the market is, right? Great source of information about, how your position in the market, what it might be looking like, where you might target. So they're going to be good at being able to, be an educational resource. They're going to be really good when they have a need. They have a client that has a need that fits your particular background. They're going to be really good at connecting those two and helping you move through the process, right? So you definitely want to make sure when you're connecting with a recruiter that they know clearly where your value is, whether it's markets you serve, levels you are, the key things that when their client comes and asks them, they can find you quickly and engage you in that process, right? So that absolutely is what recruiters are going to be great for. And they're, and the good ones aren't going to ghost you. They're going to tell you where you are. And so that's important. Make sure you have those kind of recruiters you're working with. But I can also say sometimes there is a misconception that the recruiter is going to be able to find you that next role. And reality is most of the time, it's very difficult. We have a sphere of influence, and the odds that one of my clients in my spheres of influence fit exactly what a candidate that came to me's background looks like is small, right? So my recommendation is have those good trusted ones that give you some good insight and people you want to work with, and stay only with the trusted ones when you're discussing. You'll have the conversation they're reaching out to you, but if you're proactive, and really simply is make sure that you're kind of somewhat you're on their radar, right? That, hey, just seeing what's going on, still looking. It's as simple as that. When that emerges, you're front of mind, your need, your skills align to that need, we're really good at tying them together. In fact, there's many times, and you'll get into the resource thing, where timing wasn't right. We didn't have that right opportunity for that great candidate at that time. And I felt like it was kind of hollow. It's the reason we created our resource center that we'll share later. But it was part of the reason we did that, so we could bring value, even though we couldn't achieve our main mission, which is, partnering someone with one of our great clients, right? But did that answer that question, Mindy?
I think so, absolutely. I know that you recruiters use LinkedIn a ton to find good candidates, right? So what tips can you share with us about how to best promote ourselves on LinkedIn, and what are you looking for in a profile?
Yeah, so I think there's two things, right? And I like to get people to change their paradigm, right? Instead of, and most of our clients are from a commercial space, so the ring more true for people that are from a commercial space, but I think everyone can imagine this. Don't think of this as a job search and this is my LinkedIn profile. Think of it as you're the product, right? So I'm looking at Don, right? It's product to Don product, and this is your website. So if you're launching a product and you have a website, what are you going to make sure is on there? You're going to make sure you're going to have the keywords, right? Because as a recruiter, I'm going to go in, and someone's going to ask me for a specific thing. In our world, Kaiser relationships. If you don't have the fact that you converted and owned Kaiser as part of your responsibility, and I type in Kaiser, it's not going to come up, even though you were the best at it, right? So think of those unique attributes that you imagine the value you're going to be bringing as a product, right? It's that value proposition as a product, and make sure those keywords are somewhat in your LinkedIn profile. Otherwise, we're never going to find you. You're not going to pop up, right? Also, one thing that also keeps people from popping up is really weird titles, right? Yeah, they might have given you that title and that was actually your role, what they gave you in the company. But if your company's title doesn't make sense to anybody in the world, just call yourself what everyone would understand, because again, a lot of times we're searching for title, to kind of narrow it down. And if your title's something funky that no one would ever search for, you're going to be left off the search, right? So simple things like that, you want to be found. Once you're found, imagine we're thin slicing, right? We're going through thousands of LinkedIn profiles. And there's 3 questions I'm going to ask myself and answer in 10 seconds, right? Or less, right? What did they do? What was the role? What was the level? Where did they do it? Meaning who and where, they work for what company, and it was in this space, in our world to be in the hospitals, or in the alternate care, but different worlds. And then how good were they? Was this someone that, was this someone that, had wins, led and grew big teams, or, whatever that either career trajectory, or if you have numbers, make sure it's simple and clear. And again, remember, it's 10 seconds, right? So if it's in a paragraph, forget it. I don't see it, right? Keep it simple, keep it quick. have the key, because I'm gonna first find you, then I'm gonna thinly look, and I'm deciding real quick, am I putting you into my search or not? It's like that, right? And if I don't, you never get the reach, you never get the message, and you miss out on that opportunity. It's that simple.
Wow, Joe. I got so many nuggets from that. Okay, here's a couple nuggets that I came up with. Number one, think of yourself as a product. Right, Joe? I
Yeah.
heard you say that. Really weird titles will stop the search cold.
Yeah, you won't be found. You won't be found because I don't, I'm not going to put it in my search criteria.
Right. And paragraphs, not good. You like
I don't read. I've never read a single paragraph on a LinkedIn profile ever.
Okay, so you like bullets?
Yep. Hit it quick, make it simple, right? It's that 10 seconds,
So are you looking under the experience section for those
Right.
areas of expertise? Okay.
Yep. I'll scroll down to the experience. I know a lot of people spend a lot of time on the about me. I mean, maybe someone else might give you a different perspective. I don't think I've ever read one of those.
Okay. That's good to know. Because we do spend a lot of time on the about sections, right?
I know. It's a big thing. But that's where you could probably vary some keywords too, right? That might not fit that, and that will still pull up, right? The keywords.
Right. So one of the things I recommend is always putting bullets within your about section. I hate those long paragraphs as well. It just loses the attention. But if you can bullet some of those key phrases in your about section, then that's going to be great. Great. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So while we're talking about LinkedIn, the big hot question I'm asked at least daily, if not a couple times a day, is should job seekers use that open to work circle, the green circle around their head? Yep. How do you feel about it?
Absolutely. Because here's the thing on LinkedIn Recruiter. Okay, it's where most people do. We buy access to LinkedIn Recruiter, and we buy these things called in-mails. Right. Every message we send, if we're not a first connection, costs us $3. All right. So you're going to be judicious on who you reach out to. And if someone responds, whether even if they're not interested, but they respond back, we get a credit on that $3. So if you want to be, and you want to make impact for your time, so a lot of times a filter that we put in there is open to work, right? It has nothing to do with the purple thing. That doesn't matter, right? That's okay, whatever. But it's the fact that you're open to work. We can filter by that. And I will a lot of times start, especially on my big searches that aren't very specific, I will filter by only open to work first. And I'll hit them first because I know I'm going to get a good response rate because they're open to work, right? It's pretty simple.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. I see some questions coming in, Joe. So I'm going to stop my questions for now. I have a ton more, but I want to give an opportunity to the people who are on the call for sure. Caitlin is asking, how do you know you're dealing with a bad recruiter?
So I think a few questions you can ask the recruiter is, hey, what's your relationship with the client? How long have you worked with them? If they don't know anything about the job or the company, it's probably not really a retained, engaged recruiter, right? Sometimes people, and if so, those are usually quick thin slices to know, and if they've done a lot of positions with the company, then a lot of fills with the company, worked with them for a while, they know their stuff, they know the hiring manager, that's great. But I'd also say, hey, if the opportunity looks good and they are truly engaged to fill it, hey, don't let that stop you.
Can I add one more thing, Joe?
Yeah, please.
I know it's a bad recruiter if they never get back to me.
True.
So, lack of responsiveness, if you want to start building relationships with a recruiter, I like people who get back to me. So I think that's just fair. And we know how overwhelmed recruiters are for sure, but I would put that in the column of how I would decide if someone I want to make a good relationship with if it's very one-sided, either I'm not the candidate they're looking for, or they have so many others that they're just not interested in. So there's just so many recruiters out there. We don't need to waste time on people who are not going to respond to us.
Yeah, and especially if you had engagement, they're not closing the loop. That's, that is a constant thing people do, but it shouldn't happen. Unfortunately, in our industry, people do that, but it shouldn't happen. Great.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to circle back because somebody asked a question. I think it's a great question. In that circle, open to work, Joe, there's a way on LinkedIn to have just recruiters see that, right? So that their employers don't see it. Will that come up in your filter?
Yeah, no. So if someone is within your current organization, automatically it doesn't see your status of open work. So you're not good. So that's but if someone's external, looks at it and shares it with your your boss, I say, oh, I didn't even know I set that up. I mean, I would say the default of having it is more important than the risk of anyone ever calling. I get that question all the time, but the only recruiters see it, great. Or if it is just a standard, the algorithm is definitely so that if you're with people within your organization do not see your status on that category.
Okay, great, thank you. I saw a question from Jeffrey Ullman earlier, but I can't scroll up to find it anymore. Jeff, do you want to share your question with Joe?
Sure. Can you hear me?
I can,
gotcha.
yes.
So from a corporate, let's say Fortune 1000 perspective, for company recruiters, not third-party recruiters, I've had recruiters tell me that at least 50% of roles, once they are posted externally on the company website or in LinkedIn, at least 50%, sometimes more, the reality is the companies already have one or two more internal candidates lined up. And part of what they're doing, good, bad, or indifferent, the reality is they're posting it on the company website or on LinkedIn to satisfy some kind of internal or compliance requirements that they had to post the job externally. I'm curious, that 50% or more, would you agree with that, or what are your thoughts on that topic?
That's an accurate statement. They have to post for 2 weeks, just externally before they, can promote. It's a very, very standard. However, what I will say, now I can't say all companies are this savvy,
sure,
but they're going to post it on their internal site. But a LinkedIn job, it costs money, right? That slot costs money. So any good company, now not everyone probably does it, they might just have it scraped from their ATS, but any good company won't burn one of those LinkedIn job slots for a role that is going to be, is at that level, right? They're not going to, so your odds are probably a smaller percentage on the posted LinkedIn jobs versus what's in their current site. Now, I'd also say is the best way to rise to the top, because Fortune 1000s are classic, black hole application processes. It's classic. So my recommendation there is you see something you really like, that's when you get your network game going. That's when you interact with someone in that that's in that role. Like, hey, I'm really interested in this company. What are you guys doing? I want 10 minutes, right? And guess what? They're usually bonused for you, getting the role. So they have an incentive, to, if you're good enough, right? But you don't start with that, but start with, I want to learn. That's the network game is the crucial element, especially in Fortune 1000. So otherwise it feels like an absolute black hole. And the higher you go up, in targets, I almost tell people, VP, director, VP, I mean, really, I don't think anyone gets hired through the internet application on that one, right? So.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the answer.
Yep.
Excellent, thank you, Joe. So we're talking a lot about networking, right? Answer to Jeff's question is, if we're not networking, we're not doing everything we need to do. Here's a question from Amani. the question is about tailoring the resume. Do you recommend tailoring the resume to specific job openings? And I guess that's the question.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there could be, and it depends where you are in your career, right? If you're really kind of going two different types of roles, very different, so I know some people have had strong marketing, some people have strong sales. And if they're going to marketing, they kind of highlight their marketing experience. They're going to sales, they kind of highlight their sales experience. I see value if you're really bifurcating, you have two different career paths, right? That's where I've seen the most impact, and time, value, money on that one. If really it's the same career path, you could tweak it, but I don't know if the impact's worth the time.
Yeah, I think the key word there is tweaking. I don't think anyone should be redoing their entire resume every time they send it out, but to tweak some of the key phrases might be helpful, especially if they're very different between, sales and marketing, as in your example.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're going to two different types of roles, make sure it speaks to that, right? If you're kind of on one set career path where it's just different companies, then it kind of doesn't matter.
Okay, so here's a question from Cindy. For the jobs posted on LinkedIn, there are usually a ton of applicants. Is it worth applying to those jobs?
I go back to, I don't know if it matters how many, I wouldn't pay attention to that. I would also say, hey, how else can you play the ground game? That network game, that reaching out to other people within that company. That's what's going to get you above the crowd more than any other activity. But yeah, but it again depends on the level. So the more entry level type role, sure, apply. If you're the best, hopefully you can get noticed there. But it has a tendency to be a little bit of a can be a black. Now, LinkedIn jobs that like engage recruiters outside of corporate, we're gonna try to good ones are gonna make sure we get a hold of you, and connect in some way, some fashion to give you value, even if it's not the right fit for you.
So that's interesting. Are you saying that your recruiters will reach out to candidates, even if they're not the right candidates for your jobs? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we kind of circle back. Hey, this one's not the right one for you, but we've got all this, the resource center. We have other ways we can help you. And here, update, in our system. So when the right thing comes, we can find you, right? I mean, really, there's recruiters are more motivated by, there's different, we see different types of roles. Like in a company, they're looking for one specific background. They're looking cardiology, let's say in our world again, and your experience has not been in that, it's been in urology. Well, we're going to still want to engage and make sure you're in our system, make sure we've got you most, because when that urology opportunity comes up, we're like, perfect. Well, hey, here it is in Kansas City, the urology opportunity you were looking for.
So that leads me to my next question. I'm going to ask a question because that's a good segue for that. There are plenty of people on this call and within the accelerators who don't have specific experience in medical devices, but would love to get into the industry. I see it lots of times in sales roles where they think, well, I can sell anything, so why can't I sell medical devices? What would you look for in a resume for those kind of transitional skills? And what are you looking for someone who doesn't come to you with the specific medical skills, but does have strong sales skills, for that example?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, especially in the sales, there's a lot of companies, by the way, that are hiring outside of medical into what they either call clinical specialist, associate role. They have mainly it's called associate rep in some form or fashion. Now, here's the caveat I always tell people that want to transition in their career. The reality is you're going to start kind of, I don't want to say back at the bottom, but it's entry level, right? And as an entry level, its comp is entry level, right? It's 70, it's a 50 to 70K base, 100 to 110 all in, right? So that's, if and some of the people, depending where they are in their career, that's where they would absolutely need to start to truly break in, now, if they know someone really well, someone might give them a shot at a full rep. And a lot of times those break into full reps pretty quick. But a lot of people I talk to, they first have to answer that question. Are they willing? Is that palatable for them? And if the answer is yes, then the next thing we look for is, consistent track record. Were you out of 20 people, have you been constant top 3? And what did your sales process, what were you outside? That's another big thing too. A lot of people be inside sales. They're not outside, they're not creating their own destiny, they're not, cultivating themselves. Those are things that are absolutely important for anyone to break in. But really that sales track record, I would say beyond that, what we'll screen for is intellectual curiosity. How much research, how much have they tried to understand the product? And just by reading the website, do they seem like they know what they're talking, a little bit what they're talking about? Because that tells me they have enough of that intellectual curiosity to scale up rapidly in the med device world. Because some of that is you're becoming really a subject matter expert in the space. And then the final thing is grit factor. I mean, every single one of my clients is looking for that gritty person, because a lot of the sales processes are long. Multiple decision makers, multiple things go wrong. They have to show up every single day for a long time to get those key conversions. So they're always looking for those gritty people and examples that you can articulate. And I always say that stories tell, facts tell, stories sell, right? So give that example of when you were really gritty. I tried this and we went here and did this, got knocked on my can 3 times. We went back to the different approach, and here's what the result was. You tell that story along with good track record, you're going to get an audience.
I love that. Joe, I want to tell a story in big giant letters in my nugget. It is so important to tell a story, not just to share facts, because people don't really remember facts, but they do remember stories, right?
Yeah.
We're all human beings. And so stories definitely sell. There's no question about it. When I do interview prep with people, that's what we focus on. What kind of stories can you tell about what you've done that would make an impact on the person you're speaking to? And that's in sales, it's in recruiting, it's in everything, right? We need to tell those stories.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my interview prep, I challenge, my candidates, take a moment, act like it's a 5th grade, think of that couple great stories and write up your essay. Don't assume that in the heat of the moment, you're going to be able to articulate it well, right? Write it up, situation, and conclusion, simply in that way. When it hits, you're prepared. It comes off easy because you've thought through it.
Exactly. I also would recommend to practice with someone who is unbiased, an objective point of view, because I've seen people who have they're saying the words, but the energy level is so low that they're not going to come across great. So I recommend also having someone who can be like a mirror for you, so that someone can help you understand that certain things, yes, you're saying the right words, but it's not coming across in a very positive manner.
Yep. And it's what 80% of our communication is nonverbal. So it's not always what you say, it's how you say it.
Exactly. So that helps if you have someone that you trust, that you can, bounce things off of. Beautiful.
100%.
We're on the same page, Joe. I love it. We have a really specific question from Lindsay. I'm going to read this because I'm not sure the answer. She asked, what about a clinical specialist with medical device experience looking to break into medical sales? Is that something that you encourage, and what would she need to show in her resume to be considered?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely the case. Right. I think that's absolutely possible for sure. I think I'm assuming, and you maybe that the clinical specialist means she's been supporting teams in the field, going to do more education as an RN or some sort of background. So that's my assumption. If I'm wrong, then correct me. I think what they're looking for is they're going to look for that same thing, that grit, that energy. When did you take initiative, right? And so did you actually, did you actually help in a conversion of account? Maybe you went and did an education, right? But what was the result? Think about that. You went and did an education at Sloan Kettering, and after that, their revenue jumped from, their utilization went from 2 a week to 200 a week. Highlight that, right? You sold them. You did it through education, but you sold them. And that's a number and something you can put your finger on. So articulate that, be clear with that, and people will envision, oh, perfect. Well, yeah, I can see them doing for us. And also lean to and target companies that have very clinical outcomes needed, right? Because there's some companies that the more surgical, the more breakthrough, where they're really having to create new protocols, and they're relying more and more on clinical outcomes and be able to articulate that effectively. So if you target the right type of opportunities, they're going to be more acceptive or receptive to someone with your background. You'll be effective.
Beautiful. That was a great answer, Joe, for that person. I see Kelly has a long question. I'm not going to, Kelly, do you want to come on stage and ask Joe your question?
Sure. Thank you, Mindy. Hello, Joe. Thanks for being here this morning. I'll make it brief. I have over 20 years experience as an internationally award-winning television producer.
Okay.
So I'm used to running a show, getting things done, and getting the show on air. I also have over 16 years as a physician, integrative medicine. I've worked with different colleagues, surgeons, hospitals, and I've pivoted the last 2 years after losing my business to COVID in business development for medical device startups and AI-driven startups. And my problem seems to be no one knows what to do with me. Lately, I've been applying for business development, and it's kind of like I'm running circles around the recruiters. They really don't understand what to do with me. However, I recently had, I call them conversations, not interviews at this point. I had a conversation with a C-suite executive at Northwell Hospital here in New York. And a comment was, it wasn't for an interview or a position per se, it was, you have so much, I need to find the right place for you. So this is my dilemma. So any good words of wisdom, or I would love to have a conversation with you one-on-one at another time to see what you might be able to do with me, for me, as you did for Christine.
Yeah. So I'll take, there's two suggestions I will give you. One is script your past for what you want in the future. Right? So and eliminate the noise. So if you really want business to, and I don't know what you mean, again, business development is a very squishy term, right? You've got to articulate that. We even have to unpack that a little. But if you look at your past, you've done a ton. If you're compressing it down and you want to be like, let's just say it's the business sales leader, right? Take everything you've done where it's growing a business, right? And your clinical experience, and highlight that and eliminate the rest of the noise, right? Because a confused mind says no, it does. So you first got to know where you're going and then eliminate the rest, right? The second thing I would say is you're more likely with your unique background, the level you are, et cetera, yours is going to be that ground game networking. And I know this is probably going to be a question that comes up later. That's going to be for everybody else, but I see this happen all the time. And again, I come from a sales background, sales leader background. Whenever we had an opportunity, we had defined lists, whether it's in a CRM or a spreadsheet, whatever, we had a target list, right? And then we forced ourselves, what happened, what call, what referral did I get? What's the follow-up, right? And we had a way to track it. We forced that. Use the same discipline, right? Go in, make sure everyone you talk to, use that palace of the mind approach. Oh, when I was in Chicago at this meeting, who else was there? Write everybody down. Make your big target list and start working that bit by bit. And when you get a hold of people, most of them are not going to know a role. But there's 2 questions you can ask them that I think are very impactful. The first is, hey, what's one company that's really exciting you right now? Do you know somebody there? Because guess what? If they're exciting them, that means you're usually fast growing, they're innovative, they're going to need the most amount of people. So you want to be connected there. The second thing to ask, so your list never dies, is ask them, hey, I called you because, ever since we did that interview, that video a long time ago, I respected you. Is there someone you feel the same about? Can you introduce me to them? Because it's usually that second, third degree connection that are going to have that opportunity. Not that first. Sometimes it will, but that first. So I think those 2 elements, one is kind of more universal, and the other one I think really helps you with a very diverse background. But because I'd be difficult. You tell me your background, I'm like, I don't know what to place. But if you just say, here's why I'm going to be good at this, I'm going after here, and here's what I've done in my past, and you tie those 2 very eloquently, now I understand and I go, great, I can sell that.
Well, I respect Christine, and she's a good friend of mine. We're both going out to SAWC, so that means I respect you. So let's hook up after this meeting.
Okay, perfect. I'll see you in Vegas.
Okay.
Great.
Oh, great.
Thanks, Kelly. So, Joe, I think you mentioned something, and I think that's true, that most of our connections, most people get their jobs from second level connections, not from their first level connections. And there's a very, very good reason for that. The reason is that when you keep your circle of your network very, very tight and only speak to your first level connections, you can't expand on that. And it's when you start going out to your second and third levels that you start making a really big impact. So I think you hit on something that's really super important, and most people don't realize that.
Yeah.
You need to.
And hey, I say this as a recruiter, but I think the number I heard is 83% of fills happen as a result of referrals and network versus guys like us. But so I'm giving you that tip. How's that?
There you go. There you go. Okay. All right. We have a few more minutes. Do you mind getting into resumes just a bit? Do you have any pet peeves when you look at a resume? Things that really you think is just a waste of space, or something that you would recommend that people just stay away from because it just annoy recruiters?
Yeah. Okay. Here's a simple one. It's been a recent trend, and I don't know where it started, but I don't mind not having your physical address on there, but at least give me the city, zip, et cetera. Because I don't know where you are, right? It's regional. That's kind of annoying, right? So that's one. I think that's an annoying thing. I think clarity. Again, I'm going to go back to look at a resume the same way as I look at a LinkedIn. If I'm going to look at it for 15 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds, where did you do? What did you do? Where did you do it? And how good were you? If I can't understand that really quickly, then I again, a confused mind says no, I moved on. But one other attribute I will say that I think I've seen people do effectively, and it's helped me quite a bit. So here's an advantage. If you have had a few career transitions, in the recent past, and I've seen this, companies get acquired, right? They got acquired, or they went under, or etc. Then you make sure. I've seen people put that right in the side, why that transition happened, right? Because the first thing I'm going to look at, if I look at a bunch of moves like that, I'm like, that's Hoppy von Hofster, and nobody wants that, right? But if you give me a reason real quick that says, hey, this company went under, this one acquired, I took this one public, whatever, I'm like, oh, that all makes sense. Okay, let's engage, right? And by the way, it helps me too as a recruiter, because when I push that over to the talking about the hiring manager ahead of time, before we do the debrief on the candidate, they're going to look at it and ask the same question.
Yeah, I love that. and I agree with everything you're saying. I very frequently will put, you know, that this company was acquired by other companies, you know,
Yeah.
so that you see that right in the resume. There's space for that.
Yeah.
And as far as your city and zip code, I've seen more and more since COVID hit. I hear candidates will always be telling me, I don't want to put anything on there because I want to work remote. So it doesn't matter where I live. Fact is that it kind of does matter a little bit. So
It does. I mean, I think people are like, I can be anywhere, I can fly anywhere. But at the end of the day, even if you're a remote worker, I think most of what I'm hearing where things are settling is you still want them, depending on the role, right? Depending on the role, I guess, but they still want them to be able to come in within a day. You know, if you're in Seattle and the job's in Miami, they're like, that's gonna be, you know, that's a kick in the pants if we want them in once a month, you know?
absolutely. Absolutely. What did I just see? A question about. I don't think Joe's gonna be able to speak to that. Oh. Janice is asking how many years to go back on your resume and LinkedIn.
It's a good question. I like to see the full career trajectory, you know, and it's interesting. I've seen, you know, like I've seen it where someone's, and I'm going to use again our world, right? You know, is someone that started their career at J&J, but then has done startups, etc. To me, I look at that and I go, awesome training to start a career, right? J&J, I know is nails. They've got a good training program. They started leadership there. Even if it was 15 years back, it's still relevant, right? You know, and so I like to see the full career. Now you don't have to give me all the bullets. I don't care, you know, if you hit, you know, President's Club 4 times or you did what back then, but who you did it for, how long. I still think that matters to me. I like to know your story, right? At the end of the day. I see a cover letter question pop up here.
I see a couple.
Yeah, you know, again, I might not, you know, I'm not going to speak for the world, but I've never read a cover letter in my life. So I haven't seen a cover letter used in 5 years I've been here. So I don't, there you go. How's that for an answer?
Except, Joe, I will tell you that some applications require a cover letter. So, you know, you need to do what the application is asking you for, right?
Yeah,
so,
right.
While you may not be looking at them, I think candidates need to.
Maybe it's the cover letters, your adoption of your intro email, right? So you have an intro email template. Well, in those applications, that's your cover letter, right? Maybe that's probably all I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We do want to talk about that for sure. We only have a few minutes left, Joe, so I would love it if you could talk a little bit about your resource center and things that people who are on the call could find there. We did drop the link into the chat earlier for your resource center, and also you have open jobs available on your site, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about that, please?
Absolutely. So first, I'll start with the open jobs. So absolutely, we have, you know, I think. Well, I have 100 open jobs. Not all of them are site. If they're farther along, we pull them down. So there might be 65 on the site, but we're constantly new ones all the time. And you can scroll through, look at what makes sense. Our system's really easy. We got a little video that you know what the company's about, why that's good. And then there's a quick, short questions. And the reason we ask those questions is those are minimum requirements, right? So if you don't have that requirement, it's not the right job. I don't care if you're Steve Jobs reincarnated. It's not good. We're not going to be able to get you through. So don't go forward. But that's our process. So look through there, bookmark it, keep, looking. Again, most of our roles are going to be commercial side. So if you're looking for something very different, we don't have as much, but we do some. The second thing is we've created a very robust resource center we call our Floodgate Futures, and so it is 27 videos, 12 downloadables that covers each section from planning your search to the interview stage to nailing it down, and it's all categorized correctly, all self-help, short video snippets, great information. The only bad thing is I'm primarily the actor, so you have to listen to me.
Oh,
So,
come on, Joe.
So if you want to get rid of any, insects in the office, you can keep that on autoplay. So that's, so we have all that. So please, that's there. We do offer kind of just some other ancillary event boot camps. We've got a downloadable executive career transition guide. That's awesome. So just leverage those resources, and I hope it puts an arrow or two in your quiver, so you can, land that next role.
Amazing. And Elsie just put your links into the chat, so you can all see that. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Appreciate
And
it.
follow us on LinkedIn too, guys. I'll put that plug in there. We're always putting out new content, new information. We're going to be dropping a video today with the gorilla in it. So, just, you might want to see that.
And I have seen some of Joe's videos, and they're pretty funny. So I don't know if you intend them to be or not, but I like them.
Yeah, you got to have a little fun with it, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. All righty, so we are winding down. I thank everyone for participating. If you would like to save the chat, there should be some 3 little dots somewhere where you can save the chat, so you can see there's a lot of great information in here. My promise to you is that I'm going to come back on LinkedIn and share our nuggets. We heard some fabulous nuggets today. One of my favorites is a confused mind says no. Keep that in mind whenever you're doing anything. So if you're confusing somebody, the answer is no. That's 101 of sales, and also in getting a job. Jeff is shaking his head, agreeing with me 100%. A confused mind says no. So let's keep it clear and keep it simple, people.
Yeah.
And Joe is off to Vegas, where he'll see Christine and Kelly and a bunch of other people. I thank you so much for spending your day with us today. We so appreciate it. We thank all the participants who've been here today. And we wish you all good travels, safe travels. Join us on LinkedIn. Join me. Remember to ring my bell if you're connected to me, and ring Joe's bell, because we all both put out pretty good content, I must say. And please join us in November, when we are going to learn how to get organized.
Thank you, Mindy. I do appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. I hope we provided something that helps you in your career search, and we fulfill our mission of improving lives. So thank you.
Love it. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.